Hello, everybody. Good morning.
Morning.
Rach and I are really excited to be here again for What the Fork Should I Eat Part 2. So thanks for joining us this morning. If you happen to miss Part 1, which we hosted a couple weeks ago, no worries. There's still lots to learn and chat about when it comes to learning about what the fork you should eat. So we're really looking forward to talking more about nutrition and making better food choices and adapting those choices to your current eating pattern and lifestyles. We love to talk about this, so we have lots of great information to share with you today. My name is Jackie Lesarge, and I'm a health promotion specialist here at CFB Kingston, and I will be co-facilitating today with
Myself. So my name is Rachel Askin. I'm also a health promotion specialist here in Kingston, and it's good to see lots of repeat participants from Part 1 and some new people in the room today as well. So welcome.
Yes, welcome everybody. So I think we're gonna just get right into it this morning because we've got lots to talk about.
So before we get started, a couple of things to remember. So this presentation is the intellectual property of the Department of National Defense. So do not record or try to reproduce any of the slides. Some of the topics today, we do say to have parental discretion. However, we're talking about nutrition, and parental discretion in this context just means that this content and nutritional information is meant for adults, and it's not nutritional information geared to children. So be aware of that. Also understand that people's stories are theirs alone to tell, and anything that's shared, either in the chat or in other methods is only to be discussed within this webinar and not outside. With that, anything that is shared in the chat, we ask that it remain just to be for question and answers, just so we can better see the questions that people are asking and to avoid sharing any extra content or things like that within the chat. Finally, the webinar is being recorded, so if there's anything that you want to review or revisit at another time, that is available at cafconnection.ca. So you can revisit this webinar or any of the other webinars that have been provided nationally through health promotion. So that's exciting. Again, chat, you can ask any questions there.
Perfect. Thanks, Rachel. Yeah, and we'll do our best to answer as we move forward throughout the webinar. So just to do a brief overview of health promotion in the Canadian Armed Forces, just in case some of you who are joining us today are very new to the CAF and are not really familiar with what health promotion's role is in the CAF. So our primary role is to help CAF members and their family members take control over their health and well-being. So health promotion falls under Canadian Morale and Welfare Services, CFMWS. Underneath that umbrella is PSP. So health promotion also falls under the personnel support programs, along with fitness and sports and ComRec. The health promotion program in the CAF is called Strengthening the Forces. So what that is essentially is like a partnership between health promotion delivery staff like Rachel and myself and DFHP, Directorate Force Health Protection. So health services creates all the content of our programming, and we as health promotion specialists deliver that content to the CAF community. So we speak to 4 different areas in health promotion, as you can see on the slide here. And today we are taking content from our nutritional wellness program that we will be delivering to you today. All of our programs are focused on awareness, education, and prevention. We're not treatment or counseling. All of the programming is standardized across all bases nationally, and they're free. So they're free for the whole CAF community, including family members 18 or over. Rachel, actually, if you don't mind sharing the link to the health promotion page. So if you're looking for more details or information on the health promotion program as a whole, we invite you to just click on the link, save it to your favorite. So you just have easy access to the health promotion programs. And you can also navigate through there, and you can find your local health promotion office as well. So we are going to be taking you to the polls because Rachel and I are just a little curious to see who's joining us today. So we invite you to let us know how you are affiliated with the CAF community. So if you, on the right side of your screen there, if you could just identify where you fall within one of these categories. Okay, so we've got almost everyone there has answered, and it looks like majority. We have quite a few CAF members, and then we have a veteran with us today and some civilian staff, and then one other. Awesome. Thank you for participating in that. It's really good to get a sense of who's out there. So thanks for sharing. Another poll before we get started, because prior to physical distancing and social distancing, all of our programs were in the classroom. So we just wanted to get a sense of who's out there that has actually participated in health promotion in class programming and who has just joined health promotion through these online webinars that we've been hosting over the last few months. And it looks like the majority of you have actually participated in class programming, which is awesome. So welcome to the online platform of health promotion. And then a few of you have joined us just recently with the online webinars. So thank you for connecting with us online. It's been a lot of fun, and it's been great that we can virtually connect with the CAF community in this way using this platform. Mm-hmm. So thank you for answering that. That's great.
And definitely check in with your local HP office, as some offices and bases are starting to plan for getting back to some of those in-person courses. So if you're looking for some of that, you can check in to see what your team is planning. So what to expect today for part 2? If you weren't here for part 1, we left off with exploring what your ideal diet is, recognizing that it's never going to look the same as somebody else. So today we're going to continue exploring how to create that ideal diet for you. And to do that, we'll just first kind of do a little icebreaker so that we're familiar with ourselves and have a little fun. And that question is, what 3 foods would you take if you were on a deserted island for a week? So share in the comments. But Jackie, I want to know, what would you take to a deserted island?
Well, definitely cheese. As I had pointed out in part 1, cheese is my favorite food, goes with everything, can't live without it. Have to be very moderate with my consumption, something I am mindful of, but cheese would be one. Next would be bagels, because I do love bread, and cheese on a bagel, yummy. And then apples, because I feel like cheese pairs really well with apples. And there's something about apples, green ones specifically. When you eat an apple after like a hearty meal, there's something refreshing that happens like in your mouth. I feel like it like cleans your teeth. It's just refreshing and sweet and delicious. So those would definitely be my 3. Rach, what about you?
Yeah, no, so I'm thinking like deserted island. I was like, I think there'll be an abundance of some nice fruit and veggies, some fresh foods. So I was like, I'm going to bring the supplies I need for tacos every day. So I bring tortillas, a little bit of cheese as well, and some prepared salsa. And then I'll load it up with whatever is on that island with me. Hopefully it's not deserted of vegetation either. It's just deserted of humans. So what would everyone else bring with them? 3 items. Miranda says cheese, chocolate, and roasted veggies, hands down. That sounds like a very well-balanced selection. I like that, Miranda.
Absolutely.
Oh my gosh, walk-in is my favorite too. The number 6 is my go-to.
Oh, I've never been. I'll have to give it a try. Pad Thai is very delicious, though. Good pick.
Yeah. Jeremy says trail mix, raspberries and avocados, very fresh. You don't have to cook anything. No fire needed on that island. Tyler says hamburger, rice, and Pepsi. Right, a drink. Watching.
All right.
And Jeremiah has fruits, rice, and veggies. I like how general that is, so you can select anything you want out of those categories.
Absolutely. Sushi, mangoes, and protein shakes from Lourdes. Wow. These are such a very, very diverse choices. That's for sure. That's excellent. Thank you so much for sharing all of those. It's fun. It's fun to think about and talk about, especially when it comes to food, because who doesn't like to talk about food, right? So that's fun. Thank you.
And it definitely shows your personality, what you would go to. I feel like I know you all already.
Exactly. All right, so we're going to go to the polls again, everyone. So this poll, we're going to invite you to rate your current eating habits, because doing a little self-reflection and having a little self-awareness as we move forward into the webinar, it might help you perhaps recognize some areas that you may want to modify in your current eating habits, or areas that you may want to enhance or perhaps continue doing, like saying, yeah, I'm on the right track. This is great. So we just want to have you do a self-reflection right now, just for your own, I guess, information and awareness throughout the webinar today. So it looks like those of you who have shared, very good and good is how you're rating your current eating patterns right now. We have an excellent, and we also have a poor. So hopefully, throughout this webinar, you can take what you're currently doing and perhaps enhance it with some of the recommendations and guidelines that we chat about today. So thank you for sharing that as well.
And that's something we talked about in part 1 too, how, these ratings might change day to day as well. So if you were here for part 1, maybe reflecting on if that's changed within these 2 weeks, or, keeping track throughout the days and see how that changes over time. So as we start to move into the content and again, dive into that review of what your best diet looks like, Jackie and I are going to disappear on the cameras just to save everybody's internet and make sure the connection stays nice and stable for everyone. But we're still here and to talk more about that review from part 1. So how do we move into what our best diet looks like, and what were those tips for success? Well, we ended on realizing that we need to eat a nutrient-dense and balanced diet. This is our foundation. And that foundation fuels us to be able to exercise more, move our bodies, and have the energy to balance out our food intake with healthy movement. Also, we're recognizing that, in number 3, our best diet doesn't need specialty products. So our best diet can be found within your regular grocery store items, and that is all we need. Consistency is truly the core of what a balanced diet looks like, and remembering that is helpful for us to avoid some of those quick fix tricks that some fad diets try to promise us. But we recognize, that often just sends us into a cycle of dieting, under eating, becoming hungry, a little malnourished, and then back into either guilt or self-doubt when we can't adhere to these impossible diets. Finally, we talked about reframing our thinking, so avoiding thinking about food as bad or as cheating or as some sort of reward. We remember that food is neutral, and that helps us avoid that cycle of diet guilt, which causes stress and low self-esteem. So remembering that food is there to fuel us, and it's neither positive nor negative, but a tool.
Okay, so we're going to start things off. Just as an introduction, we're going to review the principles of healthy eating. So adequacy, balance, caloric balance, moderation, variety, and quality. So when we speak about adequacy, we want to ensure that we are getting all of the essential nutrients our bodies need, including the carbohydrates, protein, fat, water, vitamins, and minerals. When we look at balance, we want to ensure we're getting a balance of those nutrients. We talked last time about the amounts of carbohydrate, protein, and fat that we want in our daily diet. So looking at 45 to 65% carbs, 10 to 35 protein, and 20 to 35% fat. So ensuring that we have a balance of those proteins are important. Caloric balance as well. So we want to ensure we're getting enough energy to meet our physical demands. Moderation is key, and it's something that we all tend to hear a lot about, especially when it comes to enjoying food, especially when it comes to the intake of our fats, sugar, caffeine, salt, and alcohol. Variety, the more variety in your diet, the better chance of gaining that adequacy of nutrients that your body needs. And then lastly, quality. You want to try to be more mindful about consuming those wholesome, nutrient-dense foods and fewer processed foods. So everything we talk about today will reflect on these principles of eating well.
So Jackie, let's go back to the polls and test some audience knowledge. On the screen, we have two versions of Canada's Food Guide. Which is the current version of the Canadian Food Guide, A or B? Awesome, you guys are on it. So
good job.
100% correct. We've got the new food guide as letter B there. And you can tell it the biggest difference between the previous food guide and the one that's current is the visual. So the visual initially was a rainbow and it provided food groups, whereas now the visual is a plate, which is much more applicable to our daily life because we unfortunately do eat off a plate and not a rainbow. And that plate looks like having half of it filled with fruits and vegetables, a quarter of it with protein foods, and a quarter of it with whole grain items, recognizing that water is that beverage of choice as well. So Jeremy's asking, where is the dairy group? Do we no longer need that serving of milk? It's interesting because those food groups haven't actually disappeared. Does anyone know where milk and alternatives lives now in this plate? Anyone have an idea? Out of those 3 sections on the plate, where do you think dairy would be included? Protein. Yeah, so it's in that quarter, that top quarter of protein foods. So you can definitely see that, a Greek yogurt would fit in there. Milk could fit in there. You could also have cheeses fit into that protein category. However, we recognize that milk isn't necessary for everyone to consume. And there also might be cultural or lifestyle choices that would require someone to not consume dairy. And that's okay because they can find protein through other sources, which is awesome. So this food guide takes more of those cultural components and lifestyle choices into consideration, and it's much more accessible. We also have a handout that goes into more detail of what some of these other changes are. So Jackie's going to share that handout for you. It's a lot to talk about. It could probably be its own webinar. So if you're curious, you can reference this handout instead. Now, this initial visual isn't the only thing to change in the Canadian Food Guide, is it, Jackie?
No, absolutely not, Rachel. As much as I love the plate, I think I might love the more than food messaging a little bit better. So this is something we're going to talk about throughout and show how you can apply the more than food messaging throughout this webinar today. So it essentially speaks to the fact that healthy eating is more than the foods that we eat. And we don't often think about this element of developing better eating habits, such as being mindful of cooking more often, about actually sitting down and enjoying our food and eating meals with others. And there's other food skills that we're going to talk about too, such as using food labels and limiting foods high in sodium, sugars, and saturated fat. So I think this is such an important message from Canada's Food Guide that really puts it at the forefront of Canadians' minds, I think, and something that we often didn't really think about before. So it really changes our perspective, or helps change our perspective a little bit more in terms of the foods that we choose to consume. So on that note, what I would like to do is introduce a couple of our What the Fork Should I Eat contributors. So we have Krista, Manager of Health Promotion here at Kingston, and Sharon, who is a Health Promotion Specialist here in Kingston, and they are going to be virtually with us today, sharing how they can apply the new food guide messaging to their own eating patterns and lifestyle. So we'll speak to, those guidelines focusing on the plate, but also that more than food messaging as well. So they're going to help Rachel and I out today with really showing how you can take the messages and apply it to your own eating pattern. So we're really excited about that today.
Yeah, and I love that messaging too, because as we started out with, not everyone's diet is going to look the same. I'm just trying to move the slides here. I don't know, Jackie, if you can give me a hand because it's not clicking for me.
Okay, so what slide are you trying to get to, Rach?
I'm still on the Let's Meet Our Contributors.
Okay, so on my screen it says Foundation for Healthy Eating.
All right, well, I'll talk to that and see if my catch up.
Maybe it just is, maybe the connection might be slow there.
Potentially, yeah. Well, no, it's all good.
Does it work now? Can you see it?
Give it a moment though.
Okay.
But so speaking to that, those foundations, the reason why we bring on different contributors is because everyone has or are at a different stage in life as well. So we get to see a multitude of different ideas, and we can take pieces of everyone else's strategies to apply it and make it relevant to our own eating and lifestyle. So we do what's best for ourselves. All right, so guideline number 1 is to consume veg and fruit more often. We see that in the visual of the Canadian Food Guide to make half of our plate filled with these vegetables and fruit, but less than half of Canadians don't eat enough veg and fruit. Most of us have good intentions. We purchase a ton of fruit and veggies when we're at the grocery store, but maybe by the end of the week, they end up in the compost because we didn't really have a plan for it and maybe it went bad. Jackie, do you find that surprising?
Yes, absolutely. And I have been there. And I know we all know we need to eat more fruits and veggies, but it's how do we do that, right? One way, you don't always need to buy fresh, right? You can stock your pantry and freezer with canned and frozen fruits and veg.
Absolutely. I used to think this way as well. If we're walking around the perimeter and you go and you see that fresh fruit and veg, that's obviously the healthier option. That's not always true. Frozen and canned food can be just as nutritious because it's frozen at its peak freshness. So the one strategy that you can use to make sure we're still choosing foods that are packaged that are still healthy is to use that nutrition label and to avoid canned or frozen fruit with any added sugar, salt, and fat. So making sure we're just buying those fruits and veg as they are. It's convenient as well because it can be stored longer, and it can be less expensive as well. So frozen and canned fruits and veg are definitely just as good as fresh and are part of that half of our plate that we're aiming for.
In the previous Canada's Food Guide, the recommendation was to make half your grain choices whole grains. Only 50% whole grains. The new Canada's Food Guide simply states choose whole grain foods. So we're going to focus on that just briefly. We're going to talk about that piece.
But Jackie, is whole wheat, multigrain, and whole grain all the same? Like, how do I choose whole grains?
Not necessarily. Whole wheat and multigrain or even organic, they may not consist of the whole grain. So I'm just going to quickly go over the composition of a wheat grain so you can better understand, I guess, what a whole grain or what whole grain really means. So when we look at this slide here, each layer is providing a unique combination of the nutrients. So we have the outer bran layer. That's where most of the fiber lives. And we also have some key nutrients floating around in there as well. Then we have the endosperm layer, and this is carbs and protein. That's where they're found. And when we look at white flour, this is the layer that is in white flour. So during the process of making that white flour, the bran and the germ are basically taken away, and you're left with the endosperm. So the germ layer, that's where you get a lot of good vitamins and minerals that your body needs. So a whole grain includes all three parts of the kernel: the bran, the endosperm, and the germ. Okay. So you want to ensure when you are perhaps grocery shopping, you want to choose a whole grain product, simply look at the ingredients list, and you want to look for the words whole grain followed by the name of the grain as one of the first ingredients on the ingredients list, and you know you're getting a very nutritious product there with the whole grains. So we do have a handout actually that goes into more detail and provides you with more information about whole grains and how to choose whole grains. So we invite you to download that handout that Rachel has provided in the handout section there. And it has been supplied by Public Health, that handout. Very informative. And then another guideline when it comes to the new food guide, especially when it comes to protein, is that it's recommended to consume plant-based proteins more often because plant-based protein foods can provide more fiber and less saturated fat than other types of protein foods, such as meat. So this can be very beneficial for your heart health. So what we're going to do right now is we are going to see how Sharon, our health promotion specialist here in Kingston, incorporates plant-based proteins like tofu specifically into her diet. So let's watch the tofu challenge with Sharon.
Hi everyone, today I have a great challenge for you. My favorite plant-based protein is tofu, and so often I hear people saying, I'm really curious about what I can do with tofu, but I have no idea where to start. You won't have to ask what the fourth grade anymore with these 3 great tofu recipes.
Just 1 block of tofu gets you 3 great recipes. Step 1 is to gather and prep all of our ingredients, include chopping our vegetables and herbs. Use your favorite salad dressing as a marinade. This only takes about 5 minutes. I've used raspberry as my dressing, but add whatever you want to your flavor. Of course, the longer you marinate, the more the tofu will take on that flavor. Our next recipe is our eggless salad recipe. So delicious. All of our things are prepped, and now we're just going to add our mayonnaise. You can add some mustard in there if you wish. I like sweet relish in mine. And then the key to this one is the black salt. Fairly easy to find. Combine. And last but not least, my favorite chicken bites, recipe 3. This one takes a little bit longer, and so you'll want to prep the oven for 375 before you start all the rest of your prep. Here I've also used gluten-free soy sauce. Mix it all together. Just tear up your tofu, throw it in there, make sure it's really covered quite well, and then let the magic happen. Bake at 375 for 20 minutes, flipping halfway through. So good luck on your challenge. 1 block of tofu, 3 easy recipes, 25 minutes. Thanks for joining us. Let tofu wow your mouth.
That was awesome, Sharon. So Sharon challenges all of you to incorporate some tofu by maybe trying out some of those recipes. So we actually have a handout. Marka, you asked if the recipes will be in a handout, and we absolutely have that for you. So please feel free to download that to try out some of those recipes. Tofu is definitely something that I feel, not everybody is a huge fan, but I think it really comes down to the preparation of it and being creative with some recipes. So thank you, Sharon, for sharing that with all of us. Another recommendation by Canada's Food Guide. Are we surprised by this one? Water should be the beverage of choice. Well, I mean, it's emphasized more with the current food guide than it was in the previous one, because we all know it's important to our health. It's a great way to quench our thirst and to stay hydrated without calories. So try your best to drink water with all your meals. Maybe carry a reusable water bottle when you're out at the office. Have one in your car. To make your water more flavorful, you can add fruits or herbs like raspberries, strawberries, cucumber, frozen grapes, peaches. Or you can try carbonated water if you like a little bit of fizz. That's good too. And in terms of how much water you should drink, 8 to 10 cups of water has been recognized as the general recommendation. However, did you know no one really knows where that recommendation came from? But it's not a bad recommendation by any means. It's about 2 liters. So you want to try to aim for that 2 liters, but always supplement with more if you're more active, or if you find you're out on a hot day and you're sweating more. Just ensure you're getting enough water for your own individual needs. And it looks like we have a question here. Would juice be good for hydration? Okay, well, Jeremy, that's actually a really great question. In the previous food guide, juice was actually considered part of the veg and fruit group. So half a cup of juice was considered a serving of fruit, whereas that has been axed from the new food guide. Juice is no longer recommended, in moderation, of course, but water should be your drink of choice. Juice, the amount of sugar in juice kind of outweighs the health benefits or the nutrient benefits of juice. So that is no longer a guideline. However, it can be good for hydration. That's a whole other webinar getting into the specifics of that. But the main message that we want to deliver here is that water should be the beverage of choice. Thanks for the question, Jeremy.
So next up in the guidelines of the new Canadian Food Guide is trying to consume foods that contain mostly saturated fat rather than unsaturated fat. Or sorry, opposite, that contain mostly unsaturated fats rather than saturated. So it can get confusing, just like I was confused there. But the quick tip into how to tell what is a saturated and what is an unsaturated fat lies in what their state is at room temperature. So you can tell in this list of saturated fats, butter, cream, cheese, fatty meats, fried foods, these are all solid at room temperature, right? So that tells you that it's more of a saturated fat. Unsaturated or healthier fats are liquid at room temperature. So that is a quick trick into remembering just what is unsaturated and what's saturated. And that makes swapping saturated fats out for unsaturated a lot easier. Trans fat is actually no longer allowed to be in food sold in Canada. So we don't have to worry about that manufactured fat as much anymore. But, you know, fat can be a bit of a tricky conversation. A lot of people, I'm sure, has felt like maybe they need to reduce the fat in their food, either for dieting reasons or health reasons. Jackie, have you ever felt conflicted about fat, either saturated or unsaturated, being in the diet?
I always like to call fat our frenemy because fat, we need fat. We need fat in our diet. There's a lot of very nutritious, healthy sources of fat, as you had mentioned, such as those unsaturated fats. But we also have to be mindful of saturated fat in our diet, like cheese, unfortunately. And I mean, saturated fat, we can't eliminate it, but we can just, you know, be moderate with that consumption. So type and amount of fat you have to be really mindful of.
Yeah, and you hit on a good point there too. Like fat exists as a macronutrient because our body needs it. You know, there's fat soluble vitamins in that those good fruits and veggies that we're eating, like vitamin A, D, E, and K. That you know, we need fat stores in our body to actually absorb those minerals. So just a reminder that fat should represent about 10 to 35% of our daily energy intake. And it's good to try to choose those unsaturated fats more often than saturated. Any questions about fat and how that exists in our diet? So omega-3 essential fatty acids. Omega-3s, so you can get omega-3s from things like a fattier fish. So not fatty fish as in deep fried fish, but as in like salmons or fish that have fat within their meat. Also flax. And even fortified foods. You might see that sometimes on different plant-based milks. In eggs, sometimes it's fortified. So you can find omega-3s in your diet without having to supplement. But if for some reason you don't eat those foods or you feel like you might be lacking in omega-3s, definitely talk to your healthcare professional, and then they can help recommend an appropriate supplement, because things like dosage or selecting a right brand can be really confusing, and there's a lot of room for error for just you know, us to walk into Shoppers and find something. So use your healthcare professional as a team member on that one, and they'll help you pick the supplement that's right for you if you need it. Thanks for the question. Section 2 leads us into processed or prepared foods, which, you know, is those things we're often finding saturated fats in. We also find excess sodium, free sugars, and they undermine all that healthy eating that we're doing and shouldn't be consumed on a regular basis. But why do we go for processed or prepared foods? It's usually because, you know, we're busy and we have lots of things to do, or maybe we've lost some of those cooking skills along the way. But it's important to go back to basics and to try to cook as much as possible and avoiding these processed and prepared foods, which is the easiest way to avoid that excess sodium, sugars, and saturated fats. Things you want to consider is avoiding sugary drinks, often alcoholic drinks, Candies, sugar substitutes, all those things are great for celebrating once in a while, but should not be consumed as a part of our regular diet. So in order to eat well and to choose some of those items that are part of a healthy diet, rather than going for these processed or prepared items, healthy snacking is a good skill to have. So incorporating more fruits and veggies into these snacks, or having more complete meals when we are eating, to avoid that, that drive for sugar in the mid-afternoon or however we feel. So Krista has a good tip on how she includes healthy snacks into her household along with her kids. So Jackie, let's see how Krista incorporates healthy snacking into her diet.
Hi everyone. So today we're just going to talk a little bit about increasing your vegetables and fruit and how to make healthy snacks. We're going to combine those together. And what we find at home is when we include our family members, our kids, into the making process, they're more likely to enjoy the snack and also increase their vegetable and fruit intake if you have a hard time doing that. So what we have here is my little helper, Charlotte, and my other little helper, Reese. And what we have are some ingredients. So a great way to use up strawberries or for any types of fruit, banana, that are already starting to go ripe, is throw them in the freezer and keep them to make a refreshing, healthy snack for later on. So here we have a ripe banana that we're going to peel and slice up and put into our smoothie container. So Reese can go ahead and do that. And while she's working on that, Charlotte here has 1/2 cup of frozen raspberries. So raspberries that we didn't quite finish eating before they went rotten, so we threw those in the freezer as well. And we're gonna add them to our smoothie cup here. Charlotte, do you wanna pour that in there? Great job. Good job. And then also we have about a cup of fresh strawberries. Same thing. Weren't going to eat them all, so before they started going bad, we decided to wash them and get them ready for the freezer. So Charlotte, do you want to throw those in there too?
The banana's ready.
Okay. Put them in.
That was juicy.
So part of eating healthy and getting your family and kids to enjoy it is to include them in that healthy process, in the process of making it and also seeing what goes in it. Another little hint is when my children are not watching me make something, I'll often throw something that is hidden in there for a healthy snack. So even though they like the flavor of strawberries and bananas, I often will throw in a few blueberries or a few blackberries, and sometimes a little bit of green stuff that they don't even know about, so that they get all their vitamins and minerals. So now what we're gonna do is we're going to add a little bit of something to make this a little bit more like a milkshake or a little smoother. So we're gonna add, you can use whatever kind of yogurt you'd like, or a milk. It could be a soy milk product or any kind of flavor. Here we're gonna use some vanilla Greek yogurt because that makes it a little bit sweeter. So we're gonna add a couple scoops of that into our smoothie blend. Go ahead, Reese. Just a couple, we'll see. So scoop it in there. And another one. Okay, so we're gonna just take our blender. We're gonna put the spoon on the lid there, Reese, please. We're gonna grab our blender, mix it up. We don't put milk in it anymore. And as you get the major part of it, what a fun thing to do is to include them in the process so they learn how to do it. So now that I have the majority of it mixed up, I'm gonna let Charlotte mix it up a little bit as well, but helping her. We're gonna go up and down. So depending on if you like to eat it with a spoon or if you like to eat it with a straw, you can also add some milk if you want that a little bit more runny. or a juice, 100% juice, or even some water. So we're gonna make sure that we have it all scooped up and mixed up in the bottom. Reese is gonna give it a go. That's looking pretty good. And what we're gonna do is we're gonna shake that off. And we're just gonna grab a couple of cups here. I know. Okay. Mix it up. Add it in. Give it a little taste. Are my little taste testers here?
Oh, okay. Too soon.
One likes it to drink it, and the other one likes to scoop it. Okay.
It's too thick.
So we could add some more milk. Give it a try. So, as a healthy snack, we now have 3 servings of vegetables and fruit, and that's going to fill them up. So give it a try, and we hope you enjoy it. Say bye.
Bye.
So I think that's such a great idea, especially when we're talking about swapping out some of those processed foods for something a little healthier. That's an awesome replacement for like that afternoon ice cream that maybe you're craving in the heat, or that like refreshing treat. So it's a really great way to get kids involved and to also get our servings of fruit and veg in there too and still enjoy our food. I loved Reese's reaction to the greens in her food as well, but she still ate it, so it's all good, right?
That was like real life right there. That's for sure. That was awesome. So now moving on to section 3 of the dietary guidelines. And this is where the food guide really speaks to the importance of food skills. So the food skills including cooking and food prep, and using nutritious foods to do that, to support healthy eating, as well as food labels. So there has been a huge shift from cooking meals with basic ingredients nowadays. Now more people, as Rachel had mentioned, because of our busy lifestyles, we're leaning towards the use of highly processed products more often, which doesn't really require too many skills. So improving those food skills by cooking and preparing food at home can contribute to, having and developing better eating habits and improving our food choices for Canadians of all ages. And it can also make it easier for us to reduce our household food waste as well, which is very important. And then, of course, food labels too, which we are going to talk about, just how to utilize them to make more informed food choices. So being prepared is key when it comes to eating well. So in order to cook more often and adopt some of those food skills, meal planning can be very helpful.
Jackie, are you there? I can't hear you.
Oh, you can't hear me? Can you hear me now? Hello? I'm here. You can't hear me, Rach? Can you share the video? Oh, strange. Okay. Hopefully Rach can maybe log on again. And what I'm going to do in the meantime is share this video. We'll be able to see Rachel in this video because she's going to share some meal planning tips with the group. So I will share that video with you right now and get that going. Hopefully Rachel can join us.
Okay, this is my confessional. I hate meal planning. I don't enjoy it. I used to think it just didn't work for me
Confessional.
until I found, okay,
I hate
this is my
meal planning.
confessional.
I don't enjoy it.
Meal
I
planning.
used to think
I
it
don't
just didn't
enjoy
work
it.
for me
I
until I
used to
found some
think it
ways
just didn't
that
work
I've
for me
adjusted meal
until I
planning
found some
and made it
ways
suit my
that I've
lifestyle a little
adjusted
bit
meal
better.
planning
For
and made it
me,
suit my
traditional
lifestyle
meal
a little
planning
bit
is
better.
just
For
not
me,
flexible
traditional
enough.
meal
When
planning
it comes
is
time for
just not flexible enough. When it comes time for Thursday night's dinner and I planned it way back on Saturday or Sunday, I'm just either not craving it, something else has come up, I don't want to cook that anymore, who knows? But I usually start to veer off the plan. So I'm going to share with you some tips that I have kind of developed over the years to make meal planning a little bit more flexible, and hopefully that helps you too. So here we go. So the first thing I do when I'm making a meal plan is just to check my fridge. Check if anything is about to go bad or needs to be used, and then I can get some ideas as to what I can cook this week. Then I'll head over to my pantry, and I've been trying out this stock list just on the inside door. So it has all the common things we like to eat. An X would be we're running empty, check mark, we've got lots. Same with the smiley faces, I'm trying a couple of different codes there. And that way it's a lot harder to lose things in the back of the cabinet, and I know exactly what I have just by looking at this list, and then I can see what I need to make those meals that I was thinking about when I checked the fridge. Now it's time to take those things I found in my fridge and the pantry items that I know I have for my stock list and start to write my menu. So I've used this option in the past where it's just an old picture frame, and I've decorated the inside a little bit to be organized with the days of the week, and then I can just go ahead and write my recipes for the week in the little circles. But you can do it however works best for you. And sometimes I can just throw a question mark in there too. Maybe it's takeout, or maybe it's a bit of a wild card if you're going to friends or family for dinner. Any extras that I don't have, I can then write down at the bottom as a part of an ongoing grocery list. So whenever I think of something, I can just write it down here and take a picture when I head off to the grocery store, so it's right on my phone. So this works with any whiteboard marker and is really convenient, but there's also some other options that I'm going to show you in a second. Another cool option for a menu board is just these magnetic clips. Again, I just do about 3 days at a time because I don't like planning that far in advance. They're easy to interchange, and these are just classic recipes that we can whip together without a recipe. And it's right near the fridge, so I can always double check, make sure I have what I need. Near my menu board, I also keep a recipe book. So this is not a fancy recipe book, just things again that can be whipped up really easily and we practically know by heart. So we have some print-offs here in the front folder. We've also handwritten some recipes when something just turns out perfectly and we need to handwrite it, and a couple of those cardstock recipes that we can pop up on those magnetic menu planners. Again, it just makes it easy. We can look through these cards and quickly make a meal plan. So if meal planning has been tough for you in the past, hopefully these tips help you just as much as they've helped me and help you to decide what the fork to eat.
You are so organized when it comes to meal planning. That's amazing.
It's taken a while, and I'm glad to be back hearing you. But yeah, those are just like tips that I've gotten from a bunch of other people and tried to make my own. So hopefully that's helpful for others too.
Yeah, definitely love the menu board. And yes, no worries about disappearing for a few minutes. That's technology these days. So I'm glad you're back on board and you can hear me. So That was Rachel. Now let's hear from Sharon when it comes to food labels. So she's just got a quick overview of the importance of food labels and how they can be utilized to make more informed food choices when you are grocery shopping. So let's check out Sharon's video.
Hi, today we're talking nutrition facts table. With so many food options available, it can be overwhelming to make healthy choices. Luckily, there's a cool tool called the nutrition facts table, which provides just that, facts. For me as a vegan, I need the nutrition facts table to help me in a variety of ways. One, to make certain that there aren't any animal products or animal byproducts in the foods that I'm choosing, and two, also to compare similar products to see which has the best nutrient value for myself. There's a variety of ways in which the nutrition facts table can help each and every one of us. Let's take a closer look.
So the list of ingredients is listed by weight, most to least. The nutrition facts look at serving amount of foods, calories per serving, core list of nutrients, percentage daily value, as well as claims on nutrient content and health claims. Percentage daily value gives us an idea if there is a little or a lot of a nutrient based on a 2,000 calorie diet. In general, we're looking to choose more fiber, vitamin A and C, calcium and iron, and choose less fat, saturated and trans fat, and sodium. So let's compare and see how you do. On our left-hand side, we have Frosted Flakes cereal, and on the right-hand side, our Bran Flakes cereal. In the morning for cereal, we're looking at increasing fiber and decreasing sugar. As you can see here, we want to make sure that the serving sizes are comparable. At the top under serving size, and then under carbohydrates, we'll notice the fiber, the sugar, and the starch. With 5 grams of fiber and 4 grams of sugar, the Bran Flakes are your best choice. Now get out there and be label reading machines.
Label reading, because it can sometimes feel like a math equation when we're looking at all that stuff. But there are tools like that percentage daily value that you can go to and to easily interpret what's in the food, as well as the serving size. Those are so key. There are some changes happening. So by 2022, all food labels will be updated with potassium, calcium, and iron, removing vitamin C and vitamin A. And there'll be more regulation around how ingredients can be listed so that they're super easy to read. So look for that within the next few years. All food labels should be updated. Now, this more than food messaging also extends to other factors like culture, personal likes and dislikes, allergies, emotional patterns, social events, all those things that usually complicate very regimented diets or fad diets that we might come across. So it's great that the Canadian Food Guide references this and acknowledges this. So it's about where, when, why, and how we eat. Let's explore more of these messages.
So I'm sure many of you have heard the term mindful eating over the last little bit as it's become a little bit more out there, I guess, in terms of really paying attention to how you eat, why you eat, what you eat, when you eat it, where you eat it, and how much you eat. And that's what mindful eating is really about. Creating that healthy eating environment. So your eating environment really changes depending on where you live, where you learn, where you work, where you socialize. So regardless of where you are, always try to make changes to your surroundings so you can make those healthier choices the easy choice. Using your senses when you eat. So being mindful of the foods you eat encourages you to pay more attention to the aromas and the textures and the flavors and tastes of food. Pay attention to your likes and dislikes using these senses, as they may help you connect you to your eating experience, and of course be more conscious of the food you're eating. And then lastly, put some a little bit more consideration into your eating habits. Think about the last meal or snack that you had. Can you describe how you ate? Did you eat slowly? Were you distracted? Did you eat with others? Why did you eat? Were you hungry, or was it offered to you? What did you have to eat and drink? What time was it? How long had it been since the last time you ate? Or where you ate? Being able to recall and describe answers to these questions means that you were likely being mindful of your eating habits. Benefits of cooking more often. So I love that this has been introduced to the food guide. It's really an opportunity to learn new skills, perhaps learning how to actually cut an onion or chop up vegetables or use an Instapot. When you cook more often, you rely less on those highly processed foods. You control the amount of ingredients such as sauces and seasonings that you put into your meals. You have control over what you create for your family. You can create meals that you actually enjoy and your family enjoys. And you can also change up recipes to cater to your own personal likes and dislikes. And one big one is saving money. So you can avoid that extra money spent on meals eaten out by cooking more often in the house. And this is such a big one for me when it comes to saving money and preparing meals that cater to my lifestyle, because my daughter being a vegetarian, myself, I'll eat anything, but saving money, being able to batch cook is so helpful. So I'm not cooking every evening because that doesn't fit with my lifestyle. I basically cook so I can have leftovers for the week.
I'm always looking for new recipes, and Jackie is a go-to for these. So next up, some of her batch cooking genius will be shared with us. So Jackie has a great recipe to share, and we'll check that video out now.
Hi everyone, welcome to my kitchen. In my household, it is just myself and my 10-year-old daughter, who is a vegetarian. So a lot of our meals are based around her eating patterns. So I do have to choose a lot of plant-based protein sources to make those balanced, wholesome, and nutritious meals. A real savior has been the chickpea. So I am going to prepare a chickpea salad today, and this recipe is one of many chickpea salad recipes that I have tried. There are many out there. This one really allows you to use an abundance of your favorite vegetables among other ingredients such as avocados, olive oil, cumin as a spice. So I invite you to give it a try, and I will show you quickly how it is prepared. Here is the colorful arrangement for the chickpea salad. I have chosen some of my favorite vegetables to add: tomatoes, orange pepper, green pepper, cucumbers. I'm also going to add some fresh parsley to the mix. On the side here, I have an avocado that I'm going to cut up into cubes, squeeze some fresh lemon juice over it to add some flavor, but also to prevent browning of the avocado. In the front here, I have the ingredients for the dressing: cumin, olive oil, red wine vinegar. I'm going to simply mix the salad dressing ingredients in this jar and then add an amount that I see fit for myself once I've mixed all of the vegetables together with the chickpeas. Lastly, salt and pepper to taste. So what I encourage you to do is give it a try, folks, and let us know how you do and how it tastes.
Cut short, but we do have a handout for you to make sure that you can try this yummy chickpea salad recipe that Jackie has. Looks really quick and easy to make.
Yeah, absolutely. It's loaded with fiber, vitamins, minerals. It's of course a plant-based protein. And what I love about it, it's so easy, so simple, very low cost. And what I love about it is I can keep it in my fridge for a few days for my daughter and I, who loves it. And we can just have it as a lunch or a snack or a side throughout those few days. So I love it. And then another recipe that I just quickly wanted to share with everyone was the vegetarian black bean tacos that I have recently tried with my daughter because she loves tacos. And this is a great recipe that you can, again, cater to your own likes and dislikes. Of course, my daughter unfortunately doesn't like cilantro, so I have to use parsley and little things like that. I use soft shells instead of the hard shells. So that's what is great about cooking too, is you do have control and can manipulate recipes in your own way. So this visual just shows you how simple and easy it is to put a really wholesome and nutritious meal on the table for your family or for yourself.
Yeah, that's great. The benefit of this too is that we're enjoying our food more. We put a little bit of effort in. It's not too much to make us frustrated, but it really does help us enjoy that taste, adhere to whatever cultural needs we want to make those replacements or changes if needed, and also be budget and lifestyle friendly.
So Rachel, this question does come up quite often. Does it cost more to eat well? So if we were to follow those guidelines in Canada's Food Guide, will it break the bank? So let's talk about that quickly before we end things today. And let's see how Rachel can help us eat well and save money at the same time.
Sometimes the hardest thing about writing my grocery list is setting a budget, but I know it's so important, especially when the Canadian Food Price Report is telling me that fruits and vegetables are going to be increasing about 4 to 6% in the next year. It's a huge increase for Canadian families, especially when I'm trying to make fruits and vegetables half of my plate. But there is an opportunity that this report states. Canadian families spend about 35% of their budget on prepared foods, so investing in cooking skills and being able to buy more basic items and turn them into a meal is an opportunity to save a lot of money. Some other suggestions to save money with your grocery list is to make sure you actually write a grocery list. So going in with a plan and sticking to it is a really great way to make sure that you're sticking to what you need, you're not impulse buying things, and you're actually going home with what you need for that week. It may seem like we're getting a deal sometimes when we're buying extra, but we might not use it, we might let it go bad, and so there's all those things we want to be cautious about. Also make sure before you write that list that you're checking to see what you already have. If something's about to go bad in the fridge, make sure you have a plan to use it. Food waste is also money waste, so we want to avoid that. You can also use apps to price match these days. And you can use a traditional flyer if you prefer, but there's also something called Flip. So you can look at all the grocery stores in your area, and if you bring it up at the counter when you're checking out, you can also price match right at the till, which is super convenient and helps you avoid going from grocery store to grocery store chasing deals. You don't need to do that. Also think about how you're storing that food when you come home. So making sure that we're making that food last as long as possible, especially if we're buying fresh foods like fruits and vegetables. So there's a lot of cool articles you can find on Pinterest or online, but one tip that I'll offer right now is how to use the humidity drawers in your fridge. I went for a really long time not knowing how to use them or using them correctly, but here's the tip to remember. So something that could rot, thinking about like peppers or carrots, you want that in a drawer with low humidity. So slide that toggle to the low side. Things that could wilt, think about like lettuces or leafy greens, you want that with high humidity. So slide that toggle up to your high humidity side. You'll be surprised as to how much longer fruits and vegetables actually last when you use this tip. Also remember to freeze items. So if you do see a great deal and you think, oh, we love, carrots and they're on sale right now, so I'm gonna buy a few, chop them up when you get home and actually put them in the freezer so they're easy to add to like pasta sauces or other types of prepared meals. You can also prepare those full meals and freeze them as well. So we're able to have the convenience of prepared foods without the cost. Overall, these tips will hopefully help you to save some money and make sure that fruits and vegetables remain half of your plate.
Yeah, Rachel, that was awesome. It's definitely a myth that it costs more money to eat well. Really, all it takes is some planning, some preparation before it turns into a habit and a lifestyle. So I think those are really great tips. The humidity drawer is definitely something that I learned from that. I didn't know that either. So that's awesome. So thanks for sharing that. So in summary, we did go over a little bit in time, but there's always so much to share when we talk about food. We'd just like to say that Canada's Food Guide is there's such a vast amount of resources and information and guidance when it comes to eating well, not only on what you should eat, but also on how, why, where, and with who, which is such an important element when it comes to really developing that healthy and nutritious lifestyle of eating well. So Rachel's sharing Canada's Food Guide, the webpage with you. So we invite you to save it to your favorites to get more information and to be more familiar with this online suite of resources. Because we all know that nutrition is more than just food. And the more we all become familiar with all of this information, the better we can choose and work on those healthy behaviors so we can eat well for life. It's all a very solid foundation of evidence that all of these recommendations and guidelines are based on. And what's great about it is that all of the information you can turn into action. You can apply it to your current way of eating, which is so awesome because we all have very diverse lifestyles and cultures and likes and dislikes and whatever the case may be. So it's really wonderful that we can take this information and apply it to just do better when it comes to taking care of ourselves through our diet. So thank you so much, everyone, for joining us today and hearing us out with all of this information regarding the new food guide and eating well.
And again, we'll finish off the webinar with various resources for our CAF members, family, veterans, and staff. So we have SIFMAP there, Canada Suicide Hotline, a great resource for our COVID-19 updates, family information line, the SMRC, Kids Help Phone, and CMP Administrative Response Center. So you can take a screenshot of this and have it accessible for whatever you need. There's also unlockfood.ca, which is our Dietitians of Canada, pulling together, again, those great evidence-based tips to help create our own healthy diet that's unique to our lifestyle. So we'll finish off with a final poll just to see how you felt about the information that was provided today and if you feel like you can apply it to your daily living. So we have the top being strongly disagree, all the way down to strongly agree. We'd love your feedback. And if you have any additional questions, you can go ahead and ask that in the chat. If all of your questions have been answered, have a great day, and we're really happy to spend the last half of the morning with you. So thank you.
Thanks, everybody. And I did see that Marcel had a question in regards to butter and margarine. So I hope it is quite a vague answer in a sense. However, restriction is not recommended with the food guide so much. It's more just being moderate with any type of food that you like and that you incorporate into your lifestyle. So everything in moderation is a good choice. So when it comes to butter and margarine, that comes down to, again, just a personal choice and just being mindful of amounts that you consume. I don't know if, Rachel, you want to add any more to that, but.
Yeah, I think a lot of the information in margarine comes around how it was traditionally made. So it traditionally has a lot of trans fats in it to make that consistency that's so easily spreadable and tempting. But now we know that trans fats are no longer sold in Canada. So they're often made with a type of vegetable oil. And so we don't have to worry about that trans fat as much anymore. So it really does just come back to moderation, like Jackie said. The same with olive oil, the same with butter, the same with any other type of food that we're eating in our diet. That's a great question.
Any other questions before we move on with the afternoon? Well, thanks everyone for joining us. Enjoy your day and your weekend.
Yeah.
And hopefully we'll see you soon.
See you in the next.
Bye.